Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for what would have been our Regina Business Growth Luncheon. My name is Carly with WESK. For those who are unfamiliar, our Business Growth Luncheon is offered every month in partnership with NSBA in Saskatoon and Economic Development in Regina. Each month, we cover a variety of topics, all tailored to help you in your small business. With the COVID-19 situation, we will now be delivering the monthly luncheon as a webinar until further notice. Today, our topic is using video to sell and is presented by Stephen Hall, the creative consultant at Stephen Hall Creative. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us today. Please start whenever you're ready.
Great. Thanks, Carly. It's good to be here today. And I wanted to begin by mentioning two quick things. First, during the webinar, I'll be referring to a number of video clips. I won't be playing them, but I've created a PDF with links that will be available after the presentation. Also, if you have any questions or want any further information, please don't hesitate to reach out after the webinar. You can connect with me through my website, stephenhall.ca, or follow me on Twitter at Stephen B. Hall. I've been writing, producing, and directing videos for the last 30 years or so. I've created and directed episodic television for all of these broadcasters, and I've created new series and original content for CBC, HGTV, W Network, and Discovery Channel. In total, I've directed about 150 episodes of television, including sitcoms, reality shows, documentaries, and lifestyle shows. I've also directed lots and lots of television commercials. Now, for commercials and industrial videos, I work almost exclusively with Java Post-Production here in Regina. So please check out their site at javapost.ca and contact Randy or Joan there for your video production requirements. They are truly the best people in the world. The very first commercial I directed way back in 1999 is still one of my favorites. It was a spot for Bennett Dunlop Ford in Regina, written by David Bellerive, who is now VP Creative and Interactive at Phoenix Group, but back then was the creative director at Brown Communications. The spot was called New Baby, and it was essentially a branding commercial for Bennett Dunlop Ford. It wasn't really meant to sell a specific product, but rather to convey Bennett Dunlop Ford's brand promise of ensuring customer satisfaction. Now, I'll be talking more about the importance of brand a little later in the webinar. New Baby features a guy who wants to surprise his wife with a brand new convertible Mustang. But when he gets inside the house, he sees a bunch of baby stuff on the kitchen table, and he concludes that his wife must be pregnant. So he returns to Bennett Dunlop Ford and exchanges the Mustang convertible for a van. He rushes home, getting pretty excited about the prospect of being a dad, only to discover that his pregnant sister is visiting, hence the baby clothes. The spot ends with him rushing off to exchange the van back to the Mustang. In addition to the fun twist, New Baby features a voiceover that says, "At Bennett Dunlop Ford, we'll do whatever we can to make sure you get the vehicle that's right for you." After directing New Baby, I went on to direct over 200 commercials and counting. And in that 20-year period, I've gained a lot of insight into how video can be used to help drive sales. The main thing I've learned, especially now when video is more affordable and accessible than ever, is that video is not a magic bullet. There's nothing inherently special about video as a marketing tool. Like any tool, if you use it well, it can work effectively, but if you use it incorrectly, it won't. Ultimately, your company's ability to sell its products and services will depend on many factors. The important thing is to be intentional and strategic about how video works in your marketing mix. Don't get caught up into magical thinking about how it will work for you. You've likely heard of the 4 Ps of the marketing mix: product, price, place, and promotion. What are you selling? How much are you selling it for? Where are you selling it? And how are you promoting it? The problem with the 4 Ps is that it's really marketer focused. It's the perspective of the seller. A better way to look at the marketing mix is from the customer's point of view. These are known as the 4 Cs. Customer solutions. They want a product or service that can solve their problems. Customer cost. How much do they have to spend, including shipping? Convenience. They want a product or service that's easy to acquire. And communication. which is now a two-way street as customers are using social media to speak directly to marketers. In either case, you'll notice that the fourth piece of that marketing mix, communication, is where sales videos belong. My point here is that video is just one piece of a marketing strategy. And in fact, it's part of the last piece, which begs the question, what's the first piece of your marketing strategy? It's your brand. Always start with your brand. There are many different techniques and strategies for defining your brand, and I'd encourage you to do your brand homework to make sure you and all of your company's stakeholders and shareholders have a crystal clear idea of what your brand is before developing marketing communications for it. You may have already done this work, or maybe you haven't. Maybe you're in the startup stage and you haven't addressed it yet. If that's the case, I'd encourage you to undertake a brand discovery session. Many of Saskatchewan's major advertising and communications companies will offer brand workshops, or there are do-it-yourself branding books and tools online to help you discover and define your company's brand. In my own creative consulting practice, I use a simple tool called the Brand Box, which helps identify 5 key attributes of your brand. Purpose. Why does your brand exist? As Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. What you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Position. Where do you belong in the marketplace? Who are your competitors? And most importantly, who are your customers? Personality. How do you express yourself? What's your tone of voice? What's your company style? Power. What are your strengths? What are you good at? What sets you apart from your competitors? And promise. What is the promise you make to your customers and that you strive to deliver on every day through every touch point of your company? For your sales videos or any of your marketing communications to be effective, you really need to understand your brand and in particular your brand promise. What does your company commit to doing for your customers and how does that come through in your marketing communications? 20 years ago, Bennett Dunlop Ford explicitly stated that they would do whatever they could to make sure their customers get the vehicle that's right for them. That's their commitment, part of a promise to their customers of outstanding service. And 20 years later, that promise still resonates through all the touch points of the Bennett Dunlop Ford brand. The box of your unique attributes defines your brand. If you haven't done your brand work yet, I encourage you to do it before considering using video as a sales tool. Call any one of these companies or call me. We'd be happy to help. I kind of glossed over this in the positioning part of the brand box description, but it's critically important. You really need to know who you are trying to sell to and how to frame your messages so they resonate with that audience. Who is your ideal customer? When I'm creating a sales video, whether it's a commercial or a brand film, it's really important for me to know who I'm talking to. A great way to do this is to think of the ideal customer as a specific person and create a persona profile for them. If you can paint a really clear picture of who your customer is, it will help your entire team clarify the best way to create relevant, relatable messaging for them. Creating persona profiles of your ideal customers is a fun exercise to do. If you work with an agency, they can help you with this, or you can find tools on the internet to help you and your team do this internally. The key is to be specific. Create a profile of your ideal customers, give them names, and make sure everyone in your company knows who they are and why it's important to frame your communications specifically for them. And make sure everyone on your video production team knows who the ideal customer is as well. So every aspect of your video content is targeted to appeal specifically to them. The market for most products and services is crowded. There are lots and lots of companies trying to get the attention of the same customer as you. Differentiating is the key to getting noticed. I've come to believe that differentiation is the most critical challenge of any business today, because not only do you need to stand out from your competitors, you also need to stand out from everyone else who's pushing out messages, trying to gain the attention of the consumer. There's so much noise and chatter in the marketplace, and lots of it looks and sounds alike. Increasingly, a lot of the marketing communications out there, print ads, video commercials, social media clips, look and feel the same. In an epidemic of sameness, it doesn't matter how sophisticated the aesthetic of your message delivery is. If it isn't differentiated, it will get lost. It's just part of the background noise that's such a big part of our everyday life. When I was a kid in the 1970s, the average person was exposed to from 500 to 1,600 sales messages per day. Now that number is close to 10,000, and many of those messages just look and feel the same. So, how do you differentiate? Well, as Oscar Wilde put it, be yourself, because everyone else is taken. As cliche as it sounds, the simplest way to differentiate is to celebrate your company's specific uniqueness and, if you're an entrepreneur, your own uniqueness and personal values. Those attributes and personal values, held by you as a founder, CEO, or business leader, are one of the strongest influences on the culture and brand of the companies you lead. I've worked with many founders, CEOs, and business leaders, and I've observed this to be true every single time. The culture of your business is unique because it has been shaped by people like yourself who are unique. When you're creating communications materials, whether it's video or not, you have to leverage that uniqueness. Using trendy techniques, even if they're visually appealing and aesthetically sophisticated, doesn't work if you end up looking like everyone else. You end up blending into the noise of sameness. But if you're unique, that's what really justifies your brand as an authentic expression of the attributes I mentioned earlier, and you'll stand out from the crowd. A classic example of how to express those unique attributes is the brand video. The brand video is meant to tell the story of your brand and convey your core brand values. Brand videos often feature an interview, maybe with you as the founder or other key members of your team, and they might show some of the culture of your organization, the problem you're committed to solving, and the key benefit your unique sales proposition provides. Brand films are an excellent marketing tool. They often live on your website and help potential customers gain confidence about doing business with your company and buying your products or services. But there are some easy traps to fall into when you do a brand film. The biggest trap to fall into is getting seduced by cool photography and what I call the Instagram aesthetic. It's easy to forget the core values of the business when you suddenly see the Instagram aesthetic applied to it. Wow, my business really looks cool in slow motion. Well, trust me, everything looks cool in slow motion. Of course, looking cool or aesthetically pleasing isn't the issue. We all want our businesses and ourselves to present well. The problem is that it all starts looking the same. All these cool slow motion shots, well-lit shots, and lovely color-graded shots start blending together. So it's all just noise. It's pretty noise, aesthetically pleasing noise, but it's hard for your unique brand to stand out. There's a great parody video that highlights these pitfalls. It's called "This is a Generic Brand Video." It was made entirely from stock footage, and it's really worth watching, particularly for its grand, poetic, and ironic voiceover. I've included a link on the PDF. So how do you avoid making a film that just looks like everyone else's? The key is not to let your brand be obscured by sameness. Tell your story. Figure out those key attributes of your brand, including those related micro attributes that you and your team bring to the brand, and tell a compelling story. I recently did a brand video for 22 Fresh, a Regina-based sport and streetwear manufacturer. The intention of the project was to explain the why of the company. It was essentially a brand video for a company that deeply believes in the value of sport and teamwork and happens to sell sport and streetwear. Their stuff is cool and stylish, but our goal in the video was to unpack the brand and go deeper. 22 Fresh isn't so much about fashion as it is about belonging to a team that really values sport and the sport-related lifestyle. Buying a 22 Fresh hoodie signifies that you're part of a team. The 22 Fresh team has a certain culture associated with it, which is very much an extension of its founder, Kip Simon. His personal core values, his love of sport, of teamwork, of responsibility and accountability, and of not being afraid to have fun and live large, are baked into his company. The 22 Fresh brand is dedicated to helping people feel confident. As Kip says at the end of the film, Put your shoulders back and be proud of who you are. This is a fantastic message for kids and adults alike, and it's really at the core of the 22 Fresh brand. Most importantly, it clearly differentiates the 22 Fresh clothing brand from other sportswear brands. Differentiation is also what makes your sales proposition unique. I'm going to say that again. Differentiation is also what makes your sales proposition unique, whether it's for your entire brand or for a specific product or service. So here's another important question to answer before producing a video. What is your unique sales proposition? The unique sales proposition, or USP, is the overlap between the problem customers want to solve and what your brand does well. It's specific to you and your customers, and in many ways, it forms the basis of the relationship you have with them. The unique sales proposition is, well, unique. It's what makes you special. It's your secret sauce. That proposition needs to clearly come across in your marketing communication messaging because it's the tangible justification for the call to action. The call to action is often the last line of the sales video. It's the final prompt in a sales pitch. Visit our website to order yours now. Ultimately, the two work hand in hand. The unique sales proposition should naturally lead to the call to action. The most unambiguous call to action is the buy now button. I was once in a meeting with a very big web development company out of the States, and they were sharing the preliminary design for a huge new website refresh for a client of mine, a multi-billion-dollar Saskatchewan company. The new website looked nice enough and presented a better user experience than the one it replaced, but it only vaguely suggested that you might want to buy something while you were there. I was incredulous. I gently suggested that if people are there visiting my client's website, quite possibly with their wallets open and their credit cards out, we should not be timid about asking them to spend their money. The buy now button isn't just a call to action, it's a call to transaction. But you need to give your customers a reason to push that button. And that's where your unique sales proposition comes in. If your unique sales proposition is a clear, irrefutable statement about why your product is uniquely capable of solving your customers' problems, you have a much better chance that they'll push the buy now button. So, if all the foundational marketing work you've done leads you to conclude that video is the perfect sales tool for your company, and even if you haven't done all that work, but you really think video is the right sales tool, there's one more bit of homework I strongly encourage you to do first. In fact, even if you're just going to shoot the video for your company yourself, using your cell phone, which I have no problem with, by the way, as long as it's done well, please take a few moments to write a creative brief. The creative brief is a list of criteria that defines the scope of the video. It's a series of questions about the purpose of the video, challenges and barriers to success, who the audience is, what the key message is, and so on. In a way, it's like a business plan for your video. A creative brief forces you to defend your choice to use video as a communications tool. In addition to outlining the business case for your video, the creative brief will often describe the story you're trying to tell. Presenting your content in the form of a story or simply using storytelling techniques will help the information presented in your communications stick. It will help your audience connect with and remember your sales message. In this excellent video from Stanford's Women's Leadership Innovation Lab, social psychologist Jennifer Aker, a professor of marketing at Stanford's Graduate School of Business, describes the harnessing power of stories and cites research indicating that stories are remembered up to 22 times more than facts alone. That's an incredible difference and something to keep in mind when you're creating videos intended to sell your product. I've got a link to that video in the PDF. In the last decade, there have also been a number of scientific studies that have explored why storytelling works. One of them was conducted by a research team at Princeton University, who used MRIs to study the brains of people both telling and hearing stories. It determined that audiences hearing a good story actually had similar brain activity on MRI scans to the person telling the story. This is referred to by Dr. Yuri Hassan, professor of psychology and neuroscience at Princeton's Neuroscience Institute as neural coupling. The result, according to Psychology Today, is that a storyteller can essentially plant ideas, thoughts, and emotions into the listener's brains. For marketers, that makes storytelling a pretty powerful tool. Andrew Stanton, who wrote many of the great Pixar films, Toy Story, Finding Nemo, Monsters, Inc., and A Bug's Life, has described the most important rule of storytelling as this: don't give the audience 4, give them 2 plus 2. In other words, let people participate in how information is presented. Invite them to ask questions. Invite them to anticipate what the answer might be. One of the biggest challenges I have with all my clients is for them to trust our audiences to be able to comprehend messages that aren't just a statement of facts. We want to be clear and transparent, but we have to recognize that the audience wants to be enticed. As human beings, we're wired for it. We're constantly searching for meaning and to help understand how things work together. We often rely on structure. Structure is critical in storytelling. In its broadest sense, the fundamental structure of stories is beginning, middle, and end. But within that broad structure, stories, or really any kind of communication, can have many types of structure. If you're intending to create a video to generate sales, whether it's a branding video that will generate interest in your company and its products, or a commercial for a specific product or service, the structure you use for your video will depend on your marketing intention. To unpack this a bit, I'm going to talk about 3 different structural forms that I found particularly useful: the problem-solution structure, the testimonial structure, and the demonstration structure. The problem-solution structure is one of the most commonly used structures to convey a unique sales proposition. It's really a simple 2-part structure. The first part of the video describes the problem your customer is experiencing. This is usually presented as a relatable experience that is personally relevant to your target audience, a problem that stops them from achieving an outcome they desire. After identifying the problem, you then present the solution. You clearly show the benefit your customer receives when they use your product or service. It's what you do well. It's your secret sauce. The overlap between what your customer wants to solve their problem and the benefit provided by your differentiated, unique solution provides the structure for the video. The challenge with problem-solution videos is to make them entertaining and enjoyable. Next time you're watching commercials, watch for the problem-solution structure and notice that it's often quite subtle. The best commercials cleverly package the problem-solution structure in an entertaining narrative that might use humor or emotion to create a compelling story. Here's an example of a commercial I did that uses the problem-solution structure. It's an animated spot for SaskTel that was done a few years ago called Hang Loose. It featured Little Red, remember her? Who for almost a decade was used as an avatar for SaskTel's ideal customer. I've included a link to the spot on the PDF. The commercial begins with Red on vacation with her trusty sidekick, Gaynor. Her opening line of dialogue is whimsical. Ah, paradise. And to think the season finale is tonight and we're half a world away. She turns to Gaynor and says, "Good thing my little kahuna set the DTVR." Gaynor reacts with a uh-oh. Red is horrified and says, "You forgot? Showtime's any second." At which point she grabs Gaynor's fishbowl and madly starts surfing toward the beach. At this point in the commercial, we've clearly established the problem. Gaynor forgot to set the DTVR, and the season finale of their show is about to start. To make the commercial more interesting and to dial up the stakes, we've put Red and Gaynor out in the water on their surfboard, away from the beach and Red's mobile phone. So in addition to the problem-solution structure, we also have a ticking time bomb narrative structure. Will they make it to the beach in time? As Gaynor hangs on for dear life, the announcer says, say aloha to Mac's remote DTVR. Red gets to the beach as the announcer continues. The cool new feature that lets you record your favorite shows using your smartphone. Red reaches down for her phone, pushes a few buttons to record her show, and says, now that's what I call a remote control. The spot ends with an exhausted but happy gainer. SaskTel has saved the day and provided a unique solution to their problem. And the final shot is a reminder of DTVR, the SaskTel feature that provided the benefit. And the announcer says, hang loose with Max Remote DTVR. The second sales video structure I'd like to cover is the testimonial structure. In this structure, the customer is your spokesperson. Ideally, they have personal characteristics that are very much like your ideal customer persona, and they are personable and relatable. In a video recorded interview, they describe the benefit your company, product, or service provides and how well it solves their problem. I'm a big fan of this structure as long as the content is unscripted. The moment you put words into their mouth, the testimonial feels inauthentic to me. To get the content you want, you simply have to ask the spokesperson questions about their experience with the product or service, and let them answer in their own words. The content of the interview is then edited and mixed in with footage that shows your product or service in action. The example I'm using for the testimonial structure is from a series of videos I've been working on for Saskatchewan Trade and Export Development. Phoenix Advertising is the creative lead on the project, and I'm working with Java Post as the production company. Our goal is to showcase Saskatchewan as a great place to do business. The product is literally the province of Saskatchewan. The image you see on screen is the opening shot of one of the videos, which features the Baytex Energy Corporation. This shot was taken by Jack Tunnicliffe, Java Post's production's aerial pilot and owner, and sets the stage for the video. The person giving the testimonial is Baytex CEO Ed LaFleur. Phoenix Group, in consultation with our client, Trade and Export Development, had created a series of questions about doing business in Saskatchewan that I asked as part of a videotaped conversation I had with Mr. LaFleur. The video was the edited version of that conversation. It told the story of how great it is to do business in Saskatchewan. The spot included supers that provided some supporting facts, such as this one. Notice that it's validated. Unvalidated claims or superlatives tend to undermine the strength of these uses of on-screen graphics. We also included footage of Mr. LaFleur working with his executive team and footage from their clean, well-organized operation at Kerrobert, Saskatchewan. Our ideal customer for this video are CEOs and energy executives like Mr. LaFleur. The idea is for them to identify with him. He's just like them. They can relate to the challenges of running a business. They are his peers. When they see a well-run, successful business that exists in a stable fiscal regime and has access to a skilled, reliable workforce, it helps make the case for doing business in Saskatchewan. The spot ends with another gorgeous aerial shot, this time of a sunrise in Saskatchewan. The call to action is combined right into the website URL, Think Saskatchewan. That alone is a brilliant bit of marketing. This spot is one of 8 that we've done so far to promote Saskatchewan as a great place to do business. And I have to confess that I find these videos really easy to do because Saskatchewan is a great place to do business. And the business leaders I've talked to are genuinely enthusiastic about it. The third sales video structure I'd like to cover is the demonstration structure. In this structure, you quickly identify the problem, then demonstrate how your unique sales proposition solves it. The key to this structure is to show, don't tell. Show me how well your product or service works. Show me how easy it is to use. The video content for this kind of video is simply the demonstration of your product or service in action. Now, as an example of the demonstration structure, I'm going to go way back to 2009. I was working at Brown Communications, and my client was Direct West. Direct West was transitioning away from the SaskTel paper phone book to MySask 411, and they wanted to promote the use of the text feature on mobile phones. We did a bunch of research and determined that even when people knew about the search feature, they were intimidated by how to use it on their phones. We decided to demonstrate how easy it was. So we made a series of commercials in which actors explained how the features worked in less than 30 seconds. One of the spots featured Amy Maticio. Now, you may recognize her from the Winners commercials that have been playing recently. Amy is incredibly talented. The spot begins with Amy asking, "Need a phone number? Just text 306-411. Enter a business category, like theaters, comma, space, and a city, hit send, and boom." At which point we do a swish pan to Amy holding tickets and saying, "Results." The spot ends with an announcer saying the SaskTel phone book, even more ways to search and find. The key to all of the ads we created for this campaign was for them to focus on a demonstration of the product. We weren't telling people about the product, we were showing them how to use it. It's worth pointing out that a sales video initiative like this one is often part of a larger campaign. In the case of the demonstration campaign for MySAS 411, this included street team interactions in which SaskTel street team ambassadors demonstrated how the search feature worked for people attending public events. Again, this was 2009, so the idea of looking up phone numbers in this way seems archaic now, as does people interacting in the park. But the campaign was a huge success and significantly drove up the MySAS 411 search numbers. We also had billboards, cinema ads, and online ads. In each case, we had a customized version of the message that was sensible for the medium. So for instance, in the cinema ad, it ended by encouraging people to turn off the cell phones and enjoy the movie. And we even made a custom ad to play above the urinals in men's washrooms. Amy was hilarious in this version of the spot, which acknowledges that she really shouldn't be in the men's bathroom. I've included a link on the PDF. I want to conclude my presentation with a quick look at one of my favorite television commercials of all time, which happens to use the demonstration structure. It was created internally by Google, by a team known as the Google Five, and it begins with a close-up of the Google search bar. There's some quick typing, and "study abroad Paris" appears in the search bar. As the spot continues, we continue to see the now familiar ways people interact with Google, searching for information, maps, translation, and so on. The key to the commercial's creative treatment is that it isn't random searching. It's actually part of a romantic boy meets girl story, which is told visually by simply demonstrating how Google search works, quickly presenting problems in the form of questions in the search bar, then showing answers that appear instantly and seamlessly. At the end of the spot, the soundtrack features wedding bells and the final search. We're led to believe that the story ends with a wedding, but it goes one step further. And it ends with a baby. It's a beautifully crafted spot that ends with a simple call to action: search on. The spot first aired at the 2010 Super Bowl and is by far one of my favorite commercials. It's a beautiful example of how the demonstration structure, married with a lovely little story, can powerfully convey a unique sales proposition that is memorable and emotive. It's called Parisian Love, and I'll include a link on the PDF. I'd like to conclude the presentation by answering this question. After creating commercials for over 20 years and studying great examples produced by others, I've realized that the secret ingredient to a great sales video, regardless of what structure you use to make it, is a great company with a great product and great service. As you consider how to use video in your sales effort, please keep this in mind. Video is not a magic bullet. The best way to make it work for you, to raise the awareness of your company and to increase sales, is to be strategic and intentional in how you use it. Do your marketing homework, but most of all, make sure your company, your product, and your services are truly great. Thank you. Hi, Carly, are you there? I'm seeing some of the questions being asked, and I'm not sure if Carly's there. I ended maybe a little shorter than she expected. So um, the PDF will be sent to all of the folks that are on the that are part of the presentation. So that seems to be a question that's being asked quite a bit. So absolutely, we'll send the PDF out to you. And also, if you want to reach out, if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. As I said at the beginning of the webinar, you can be you're able to connect with me through my website. We've had a question here from Lisa that says, can you suggest a starting point for defining brand? Maybe I'll just touch on that. I go back to the folks that are creating the brands and the reasons that they're doing it. That's when I'm working with my clients on brand development. I always mind that. I always get into the why. Why are they doing what they're doing? I'm sure many of you heard of Simon Sinek and his presentation and book, Start with the Why. I would encourage you to look at that, because more than anything else, why the brand exists, why you're pursuing that, is probably the most important part of defining your brand, or at least a starting point. My website URL is stephenhall.ca, and that's STEPHEN. Oh, there, someone else put it up there.
Great. Okay. Thank you for sharing with us today. Just to address a couple of the questions there as well. This will be available for on-demand viewing by the end of the day today. So that'll be up on our website. And then as well, we will send out that PDF that was mentioned during the presentation. We do have a webinar coming up. There, Melissa, the PDF will be sent out to your email. So you'll get that by the end of the day today. Great. So thank you everyone for joining us today.
I'm seeing a question from Heather here, Carly, about working on a series of videos, tips that we can tell an overall story and yet be self-contained. It's a good question. What's interesting in it, and maybe this is not quite the question, but what's become clear to me lately, and just evident in the marketplace, is that people are wanting to use their videos in lots of different ways. So for instance, the videos that we create for trade and export development, there's usually an anchor video that's maybe 2.5 to 3 minutes long. And then we segment that out and break it into chunks. Sometimes those are 30 seconds long, sometimes they're 15 seconds long. And what's interesting is that those chunks end up being kind of self-contained, but also connect as part of the whole. Sort of, it's evident if you watch the whole video. Oh, that's that part that focuses on that particular aspect. So I think it's just a matter of sort of seeing the whole and doing that work first, and then beginning to unpackage it and see where smaller subsets could be. It is important for all of those to still sort of have a bit of structure to them and have a sort of beginning, middle, and end. But it really is possible to do. Yeah, that sounds good, Heather. Janet's asking about tips for enlisting a testimonial. I get it. It's hard sometimes to do that. I think the key is if you have a satisfied customer, if you have someone who is kind of, the term we like to throw around is kind of a raving fan, um, they're usually happy. They're usually happy to do that work. They're usually happy to speak. And as long as you're allowing them to be authentic, and as long as you're allowing them to express their true opinions, you'd want to vet them first to make sure that they in fact did have a positive experience. I found that people are usually kind of quite happy to participate. A question: do I ever use written testimonials? Honestly, I haven't in a long while. The written testimonial, the sort of paid promotion kind of form, has really kind of gone by the wayside. I think people are quite wary of that form, partly because I think we've all been kind of burned by it. These days, the testimonial or the endorsement or the personal review, even if you think about when you go to buy something on Amazon or whatever, and you'll look at like what do other people say about it, and then what do they write about it? They've bought this product that I'm interested in buying, and they give you, it's a little testimonial right there. We've become used to that, and I find that it's the more kind of raw it is. It doesn't have to be. They don't have to be necessarily like a super well-spoken person, but if they genuinely convey that this worked for them, and they genuinely give a positive review of your product, or a positive description of it, that's what really counts.
All right, so if there's no more questions, I'll just have a couple of closing remarks. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. So yeah, as I mentioned, the PDF will go out today, and then this webinar will be available on demand by the end of the day today at our website. We do have another webinar coming up on June 3rd, and you can register for that on our website as well. It's the Entrepreneur's Guide to Maintaining Sales During COVID-19. So bye everyone, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Bye now.